Ghostrunner 2 got announced recently, and I thought what better time to make like Venezuela and inflate my ego by making a review and pretending that what I say might actually have an effect on the game. And I know what you're wondering. Why am I laying on the floor? It's not because I'm trying to seduce you. It's because I went to the store and told them I needed something to sit on. And they went to the pets aisle and gave me a cat bed. Yes, I am thinking about having my Joker arc soon. But in the meantime, being a gamer is not a bad substitute. When I first saw gameplay of Ghostrunner, I didn't honestly think anything of it. This isn't supposed to be a jab at the devs or anything, but it just sorta hit me as one of those games that you see on a 3 AM YouTube crawl and then never hear about again. Then the demo came out and I could practically hear One More Level laughing their way to the bank as Ghostrunner took the title of the second game in my entire life that I've ever pre-ordered. And honestly, one of the better pre-order experiences I've had. Probably because, for one, it had a demo, and for two, that demo was actually representative of the final game. Seriously, a demo is something that I really have to give every indie dev who does one props for, because it's not exactly a small thing to ask people to spend $60, $40, or even $35 on something that they've never played, don't know if they will like, and in the case of people who don't have high-end computers, so most people don't even know if they can play. I'm a million times more inclined to buy a game that I have played and know I will like than one that I only think I might like based off a small set of highly curated and cherry-picked videos. But I digress. Seeing how long the last video turned out, I'm thinking I'd like this one to be on the shorter side, so I don't have time to ramble. Let's just jump straight into the game. There we go. Straight into the game. Ghostrunner is a game developed by the aforementioned One More Level. It's a first-person action game that follows the Hotline Miami school of live, die, and repeat until you eventually find a way through the area. This is normally where I'd start talking about the way the game looks, but I'm a video speedrunner now, so sorry, honey, I don't have time to hold your hand for this one. You're listening to the guy who pretty much restated, I think it's made to look pretty and nothing else for an entire semester of art history, so I don't exactly have the best track record of explaining things that you look at using things that you hear. But in case you're watching this Miss Baltalamak, it's a dystopian cyberpunk slum full of slummy things and slummy people. Well, minus the slummy people part. If there's one thing I feel I actually should say, it's that the city levels at the latter half of the game felt entirely devoid of any kind of life. I didn't get the impression that anybody actually lived there. It just ended up feeling like a set piece with no purpose other than you running on it. It's not a bad looking game though. It's just simple. Much like the gameplay. Cyberpunk 20... Ghostrunner only gives you a handful of things to learn and utilize. Walk, slide, slash, and dash make up the bulk of your capabilities, and parrying. Using these, you simply go from area to area of enemies trying to find a way to get through all of them before they land a shot, because you've got glass bones and paper skin and will die if a mosquito lands on your foot. You can also grapple, but it isn't usually part of your main kit because it's limited to very specific points and levels. Not overloading the player with a bunch of different mechanics to learn is a great thing. It lets you get familiar with your kit and progressively grow your skill through the whole game rather than trying to figure out how to effectively utilize some new thing that gets given to you every other level. Now, if you've played this game, you could point at the abilities and call me an idiot, but as a counterpoint, I'm going to point at the abilities and call you an idiot because you're just a video person, and I'm not obligated to give you a valid argument. The abilities, while there are multiple of them and they kind of go against the whole simplicity thing I was talking about, all actually supplement the rest of the kit quite well without overloading it. There are 4 abilities and the points at which you acquire them are spaced out in a way that allows you to get comfortable with them. Then, as new challenges start getting introduced, they give you a new tool to help with them without ever making the other abilities obsolete. They're all considerably useful, helping you fill perceived gaps in how you approach a given fight. That being said, there was one particular enemy that felt like rock, paper, scissors, where rock was a robot that shot waves of projectiles and paper was Tempest. Tempest reflects projectiles. More importantly, Tempest reflects these projectiles. Projectiles that your sword can't reflect. Anyway, like I said, I like the abilities. They feel like natural additions to your arsenal and let you approach things in new ways without ever feeling especially necessary most of the time. All of this, and by all of this I mean all of this, can be upgraded through Tetris. I say upgrades, but only some of them are upgrades. A lot of them are more of add-ons to your skills, and I really like the customizability that they offer. They let you tune your capabilities to your playstyle. You can become invincible while dashing or proc bullet time on every kill. There's a lot of ways to fine-tune yourself to how you play the game. And if you wanted to, you could even ignore this entire system and not be missing out because every slot you leave open gives you a bonus to passive ability regen. So even no build ends up being a decent build if your playstyle dictates that you like to use abilities a lot. It also helps to avoid the feeling that you're wasting slots because you didn't know how to do a T-spin or whatever. No matter what you do, you're always benefiting from it, whether you utilize it or not. The game plays pretty well, but I have to say it doesn't play as well as something like, say, Ultra Heal. You know, I always mention other games in these videos, and it's a habit, honestly. Anyway, there's one main thing that I felt like stunted the fluidity of the game, and that's the fact that under normal circumstances you can't really conserve momentum. Dashing doesn't launch you forward, it translates you a distance in the direction you're facing, and I know that's not literally how it works, but in normal gameplay it functionally does work like that. That working the way it does means that with what the game teaches you, you can't dash jump, and dashing while in the air will pretty much reset your speed. The air dashing is a good thing. You pretty much have no maneuverability in the air, and dashing should ideally be predictable because it's the only thing that you can do when you're airborne. Not being able to dash jump, however, is so fucking unintuitive that I find it hard to believe that no one who playtested this game said, hey, I kinda don't like that. Trying to dash jump results in you cosplaying my life and not really going much of anywhere at all. Walking speed is already pretty low, and the only saving grace is that sliding can carry a dash's momentum. And before anyone says anything, yeah, I'm aware, there is some tech that allows you to make a dash jump function as it probably should. I do know about a good amount of the advanced movement tech in this game, and I know that from experience it makes the game feel a hell of a lot better even if it's not implemented onto a full speedrunning scale. But it's not exactly a good thing to have to go out of the game to learn about stuff the developers probably didn't even know about just to make the game feel normal to play. And I'm pretty fucking confident saying the devs didn't know about this because if they did, this would have been a feature, not a side effect. I understand there's a level of apprehension giving people this from pressing 2 buttons in sequence, and I agree. This is a little egregious. A neutered version would work just fine, and it would certainly be better than not moving at all. I am a robot ninja optimized for killing people, not grandpa after the war. I should be going fast, but it seems like most of the time they don't want you going faster than walking speed. It would be like if an action game broke up its levels by inserting easy, albeit tedious and menial puzzles. These are so ridiculously out of place, and I don't know who saw a game whose strong points are fast-paced action and platforming and then decided to add something that has neither of those. Actually, my bad. One of these sections is about platforming. Platforming that's so obnoxious that it made me want to try to take my contacts out with medical tweezers, then inevitably fail and go blind, then never have to play video games again. Honestly, might be a blessing. The puzzles aren't that offensive, I guess, but they are entirely unnecessary and run directly opposite to the rest of the game. I just like killing people. Just let me kill people. The things I get to kill are pretty fun to kill, and now that the FBI is watching, I'm going to have to clarify that I'm still talking about the game, more specifically, enemy variety, and how in this game it's actually pretty good. There's only a small handful of them, but each of them is very unique and does things that only that enemy type can do. Some of them shoot single shots, others shoot bursts, some are melee, and some are geckos. Different combinations of these enemies mixed with some decent level design create for a lot of diverse and uniquely challenging gameplay scenarios. The different threats you have to contend with force you to think on your feet and learn to recognize when a route isn't working and look for new options. Oh my god, silly me. I almost forgot about the part where I viciously complained for 5 minutes because these videos would be nothing if not for that. Whoever made this screeb-looking motherfucker is proof that we need a second Nuremberg trial. If you think playing against hordes of kamikaze enemies is fun, then you are a sociopath and you can use this video as a doctor's note, because I'm right. If there's literally one thing I can ask one more level to do for Ghostrunner 2, it's to remove this fucking enemy and never look back. And yeah, something that forces you to move in a game that's all about good movement sounds like a jolly good mechanic on paper, until you put them in a narrow hallway and you give them unpredictable pathing and give them spawn locations that fucking Apollo couldn't predict on the first try. But all that, well, I could forgive all of that. Sometimes they actually do serve their intended purpose and create more challenging scenarios. The thing that I can't forgive, though, is that they both make the most annoying sound in the game and have bugged audio. No matter where they are in relation to you, they will always sound like they are right behind you. They play that sound on repeat, twice as loud as anything else in the fucking game. And honestly, I don't even know if this is actually a bug or a feature they put in to try to make this section feel more tense. All I know is that I mute the game every single time I have to play this section. Even if you're playing the game for the first time, I suggest you do the same. Because frankly, you're better off not having to live with the experience. These things are the sole reason it took me so long to finish hardcore mode. And now that I've got you thinking about hardcore mode, you unlock it after beating the game. Since obviously you can't get more one-shot, the way they made the game harder was to change what enemies spawn where, meaning you encounter late-game enemies from the very start of the run. For the most part, this works really well and does increase the challenge, oftentimes completely changing the way you approach areas compared to their normal mode counterparts. There were a few times that I got the feeling that enemies were in places that they definitely shouldn't have been, and it made some areas play out much more awkwardly than they normally would, but a majority of the time, it's okay. Mostly only being not okay when these fucking things were involved, but I'm glad they found a way to utilize the strong cast of enemies they had at their disposal. Because they're nothing if not unique, and after the last video, the fact that this game contains 3 bosses that don't share any mechanics is something that I can't take for granted. And since there's only 3 of them, I can talk about each of them individually, but if it's sparkness that you're after, then allow me. Alright, I guess for everyone else, please turn to page 7 and let's start reading. First up is Tom. Simply put, Tom is really fucking cool. It's a boss that's just a big 3-phase platforming challenge and is a lot of fun. Walking into the room and seeing all the lasers firing up is really sick, and all in all, the atmosphere is really well done. 8 out of 10. Next up is this thing, and honestly, I don't remember its name. Don't care either. Kinda sucks. It's a skill check. Parry 4 strings of attacks and she dies. The issue is that she's built up to be equal to you, but when you actually fight her, the only things that you have in common are that you both have swords and can attack. If this entire fight was kept the same, but had you chase her through a city in a platforming segment between each of her attacks, the fight would probably have been a lot better. It would feel like you're actually fighting a version of yourself like she's intended to be, but as it stands, she's a total nothing of a boss. Went in expecting V2. Got Genji, except my deflect was set to manual. 4 out of 10. And the final fight in the game, Mara. Another really boring boss fight. You dodge around until she exposes a weak point, then you hit it and repeat 3 times. For an inanimate object, Tom was way more intimidating and infinitely more grandiose than this woman. All Mara has is an accent that seems to change every other sentence and sounds vaguely racist sometimes.
Have you told him anything at all? About your plan? About why he exists?
What will you do if you kill me, puppet? Let him consume you?
She doesn't feel like a final boss at all, and I guess you could argue that she's not the final boss, but she is the final thing in the game that's labeled as a boss, so fuck you, yes she is. Point is, 5 out of 10. Barely better than this thing. And it's fitting that we're talking about the final boss, because we're about to get to the final boss of this video, the characters. That didn't really hit the way I wanted it to. Now, I wouldn't talk about the story because I didn't find it especially notable, but I did like the characters and thought they were worth talking about, so I guess a basic explanation is in order. Adam made Dharma Tower after the outside world became uninhabitable. He made the Architect an AI copy of himself with the sole purpose of ensuring humanity's survival and then got killed by Mara. Mara imprisoned the Architect and took control of the tower with the goal of getting humans back into the outside world no matter the cost. The Architect thinks she's stupid and doing it wrong, so he convinces you to go kill her with a bunch of other shit in between, blah blah blah, who cares. Like I said, the point is I want to talk about the characters. There are only 3 main characters who are constant through the game. The Ghostrunner, or Jack, the Architect, and Zoe, a member of a resistance group against Mara. The characters each have distinct personalities that are never played up as caricatures of the archetypal idea of their character. Zoe wants to make the tower a better place, but she's not naive and knows that she herself probably can't do that. Jack is reserved and observational, and over the course of the game realizes how bad life is for people of the tower and the fact that he is realistically the only person who can actually do something about it. The Architect clearly just wants power restored to him and doesn't care about immediate actions that can be taken to help people on your way to doing so. One of the interesting things is that Jack is the only person of the 3 of them who can hear the Architect. The Architect will often call Zoe naive, and Jack will equally as often tell him to fuck off. I also want to point out that the Architect and Jack's voices both convey a sarcastic AI who doesn't give a shit and a person who's realizing the sarcastic AI never actually gave a shit very well.
Why did you program me not to use guns?
There are a lot of points where you can almost hear the "that sounds like bullshit" in Jack's voice, which is something else that I really liked about Jack's character. He's not an idiot. He obviously doesn't believe half the shit the Architect says to him and will call him out on it or just straight up ignore him, which is exactly what most people would do if they had a voice in their ear constantly telling them that it was the good guy, but also you should let this entire district of people die because it's not your problem and ignoring it would be easier. Which actually makes a lot of sense assuming that Adam was American before the collapse, but I digress. There was one part in particular that really stuck out to me, and it was this exchange.
I guess we're kind of similar, you and I.
How?
You're the last Ghostrunner. I'm the last climber. The Keymaster killed our people. We both chose to fight.
I didn't get to choose.
Sure you did. Everyone does. One way or the other.
At first I thought, well, that's kinda dumb, he literally was made to fight, of course he didn't have a choice. Right? Then I realized, he definitely does, and I might be reading too much into this, but I think he stays silent afterwards because he realizes this too. The Architect can deactivate him, sure, but at the end of the day, Jack is his only chance at getting back into a position of power, and he can't force him to do anything. Jack is going to fight Mara, not because the Architect is hounding him to do it, but because he's choosing to do it. He wants to help Zoe, he wants to help the people of the tower. He realized that, yeah, he is free, but he still chose to fight back. And that's when it all hit me. It was Blade Wolf the whole time. I was playing the wrong game.
Everybody